morning headlines before you step out, midday updates while you work, evening analysis when the day winds down. Wherever life takes you, Aneke TV keeps you informed, connected, and ahead. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
In the stories of ancient Greece, Achilles was more than a warrior. He was a hero whose strength could turn the tide of war, whose courage
Every second, the world changes, markets rise, leaders speak, stories unfold. To keep up, you don't just need news, you need clarity, you need speed, you need perspective.
That's why Aneke TV brings you the global pulse. Accurate, reliable, right when it matters most. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Every second, the world changes, markets rise, leaders speak, stories unfold. To keep up, you don't just need news, you need clarity, you need speed, you need perspective.
That's why Aneke TV brings you the global pulse. Accurate, reliable, right when it matters most. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Morning on Aneke Business Parlor, where we'll bring to you the business landscape, up-to-date information on your portfolio investments. This is Aneke TV Business Parlor, and we're looking at the Nigerian business landscape for March 4th, 2026. I'm still your host, Uche Osai. Now, let's take a deep dive into the Nigerian business landscape. You know, we can tell you that the business landscape was dominated by sharp spikes in energy costs driven by global geopolitical tensions, along a record-breaking surge in business confidence, despite mounting inflationary pressure. Now, let's take a look at the macroeconomic indicators and policies shaping this landscape. And then we'll take a look at the Nigerian Economic Summit Group reported that the Business Confidence Index hit a record 117.2 points for February. You know, this growth was broad-based, with non-manufacturing and manufacturing sectors leading the charge. And then when we move forward to take a look at the monetary shift, you realize that the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, reported a slight contraction in broad money supply to 123.36 trillion naira in January. Meanwhile, the CBN hiked 364-day Treasury bill rate to 16.73% to mop up liquidity. And then we'll move on to other factors that help to shape the business landscape. Remember, yesterday we did inform you about the new appointment from Mr. President. Yes, and as the Minister of State for Finance, you know, he appointed Taiwo Yedelo into a new position. Yes, and that signaled a continued push for aggressive fiscal and tax reform. Now, let's quickly run over to energy and commodities. You know, the Middle East effect. Yes, the conflict there is escalating in the Middle East and has triggered immediate domestic shocks to Nigeria, the regulated downstream sector. You look at the fuel price surge, will tell you that retail petrol price jumped significantly. You know, in areas like Lagos, pump prices rose from approximately 875 naira to now 975 naira per liter. You know, why some independent marketers around Lagos and Abuja are pushing forward, you know, towards a rate of 1,000 naira. Again, another major player in this industry that helped to shape this landscape is the Dangote refinery. The refinery adjusted its gantry price to 874 naira per liter. We did inform you about this yesterday, and it has summed up to help to shape the business landscape. Remember that Dangote refinery is citing rising international crude costs. Yeah, Bonny Light hit around $84 per barrel, and then we move on looking at other utilities like diesel prices, you know, equally climbed up to 1,300 naira per liter, and liquefied natural gas, which most homes need, rose to 1,200 naira per kg, and that's adding fresh pressure to operational costs for small-scale enterprises and households as well. Now, jumping over to the foreign exchange and equities, we'll see that the Naira is experiencing a kind of a volatility. Yeah, the Naira is weakened for the 11th consecutive session. Yes, and at the official market, they closed near 1,384 Naira 29 kobo against the dollar. Whereas at the street market, the parallel market, the Naira was around 1,385 Naira and 1,395 Naira against the dollar. With some retail hubs reporting rates as higher than that, even up to 3,775 Naira for buying. Yes, and then when we quickly take a look at the Nigerian stock market, you realize that the equities market closed negative, with the all-share index ASI easing by 0.08% to close at 196,463 Naira 22 points. Yes, the top losers as of yesterday, is led by Dangote Sugar, losing at the dip of minus 10%, very deep. Yes, they led the decliners yesterday. And when we look at the top gainers, as we'll bring you that in detail, you see that Premier Paints, was equally very bullish, making a plus 10% climb. Wow, that's so wonderful to see, Premier Paints climbing so high, so bullish. And now let's bring you up to date with corporate highlights with Owando PLC. Owando PLC reaffirmed its commitment to indigenous upstream growth as it takes over more assets from the Pactin international oil companies. Yes, and then Union Dye Consult, in a regulatory filing, the company noted it has been unable to reach its 40% majority shareholder. The AIMS Limited raising concern over corporate governance. And then let's take a look at the gold reserve. We can authoritatively let you know that the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, boosted Nigeria's gold holdings to $3.5 billion, $3.5 US billion, and this is part of a strategic move to diversify and solidify national reserve against currency shocks. What a smart move. Then the key takeaways from all this, when we move forward to look at the key takeaways from this, you see that while business optimism is at an all-time high due to recent reforms, the imported inflation from global energy crisis is creating an immediate cost of doing business crisis for Nigeria. Yes, and that's what it will be. But do not despair. And then let's quickly run over to the Nigerian stock market, where we'll bring you detailed updates of the happenings at the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange yesterday. Yes, and then we can tell you that the exchange cooled off from its early week rally, closing in the red as profit taken in heavyweights like Dangote Sugar outweighed gains in the insurance and oil sector. The all-share index, ASI shared 0.8% to close at 196,463.22 points, while market capitalization decreased by approximately 91 billion naira to settle at 126.10 trillion naira. Yeah. And then we'll move up to look at the top gainers as yesterday. The top gainers, the chart, is being led by the industrial and insurance stocks, showing resilient demand despite the broader market dip. And here are the market leaders for yesterday. We told you that Premier Paints yesterday closed its books at 12 Naira 10 kobo. Yes, at 12 Naira 10 kobo, making a positive adjustment of 10%. And then you're seeing Fortis Global Insurance. Yes, Fortis Global closed its trading yesterday at 1 Naira 24 kobo, making a positive adjustment of 9.73%. Leading us to USC Nigeria. USC Nigeria is traded as USCN, closing its book yesterday on a very positive note, equally at 115 Nairas. 115 Naira, making a positive close at plus 7.78% adjustment. And we are seeing Etana PLC. Etana PLC closed trading at 35 Naira, making a positive adjustment of 6.38%. Yes, and then they are followed by Custodian Investment, another insurance broker company, closing at 70 Naira, making a very big leap of plus 6.06% positive adjustment. Yes. And then looking at the losers chart, selling pressure was concentrated in the consumer goods and banking sectors, with some stocks hitting the maximum daily loss limit. And here they are led by Dangote Sugar Refinery. Dangote yesterday, due to results of profit takers, closed his book at 74 naira 70 kobo, making a very big dip of minus 10%. That's the height of it, a very big dip indeed. And we're looking at Jaiz Bank closing his book yesterday at 10 naira 80 kobo, making a negative dip of 10% here. And they are followed by CAP PLC, which closed trading yesterday in the negative 9.97% at 84 naira 85 kobo. And then the last on this list is Union Die Consult. Yeah, Die Consult is the trading name, and they closed their book yesterday equally in the dip of negative 9.94% to close trading at 14 naira 95 kobo. And then we'll tell you that there is equally HM Call, which equally is in the dip as well, closing trading yesterday at 3 naira 92 kobo, making a negative dip of 9.89%. And then when we take a look at the market activity as at yesterday, you see that when you take a snapshot of the market activity, yes, they will tell you that the volume of shares traded rose to 805.25 million shares, valued at 38.42 billion naira in a deal worth 71,312 deals. Yeah, making a percentage of 15.3 decline from the previous trading day of Tuesday. Now, when we take a look at the most traded assets by volume, we'll see that Access Holding led with over 46 million shares traded. Yes, Access Holdings here. Then let's take a look at the sectorial performance, starting with banking and oil and gas. When you go into the banking sector, for example, you will know that given the profit takers, that the banking sector was down by 0.45%. Yes, the sector closed in the red as investors locked in, on profits from earlier rallies. Most active stock, by value, as of yesterday, was Zenith Bank, moving up to 11.1 billion naira. Yes, while Access Holding, we told you, led by volume. And then we see Jaiz Bank, which is hit by the maximum loss of around minus 10%, equally, lagged behind the Zenith and the Access Holdings as well. And then let's quickly take a look at the oil and gas sector, which we can tell you is down by 0.03%. Yes, despite the high global crude prices, the sector saw a marginal decline due to selective profit taking. Top performers in the oil and gas sector were led by Etana PLC, which gained plus 6.38%. And then we saw Seplant on Awado, reduce volatility after Tuesday's sharp rally, but they are steady. Yes, they are equally on the steady side, but not as Etana PLC. Now, when we move forward fast enough to the Naira performance as of yesterday, we can let you know that the Naira remained relatively stable but slightly weakened in both official and the parallel market due to sustained import demand. When you take a look at the official rate of Naira at the both parallel markets and the official market, you can see that against the dollar, the Naira was able to get to 1,382 naira 65 kobo, while at the parallel market it got to 1,385 to 1,395 naira against the dollar. When paired against the British pound at the official market, the British pound is a very strong currency globally, and the naira was able to hold ground at 1,755 naira 40 kobo, while at the street market it rose to 1,760 naira to 1,775 naira. And then when paid against the euro at the official market, we saw that the naira closed at 1,502 naira 15 kobo, whereas at the parallel market, you see the naira closing at 1,505 naira to 1,520 naira. Let's take a look at the key highlights in the Naira market yesterday. And first of all, you notice the volatility here, because we did tell you that the Naira opened at 1,379.5 kobo and fluctuated narrowly, closing with a marginal depreciation compared to the previous day, where it closed 1,376 Naira against the dollar. And then what's necessitating this market gap will tell you that the spread between the official and parallel markets remained tight at approximately 1.2%, signaling effective liquidity management by the CBN. Now, high demand for corporate remittances and manufacturing imports continues to be the primary driver of the slight daily slide that we witnessed as of yesterday. And then let's quickly jog over to the Brent crude performance. The Brent crude performance yesterday, was driven by the escalating conflict in the Middle East. Yes, and let's just quickly look at the performance summary. The settlement price, Brent settled at $81.40 cents per barrel, making a marginal daily gain of 0.1%, 81.40 cents. That's what the per barrel, was at the market as yesterday. Though there was an intraday peak where prices briefly skyrocketed to $84 per barrel before in the day. Yeah, it was so high that later it now, dipped and closed at that mark, which at $84 was the highest level since early 2025. And then when we bring this into context, we'll keep telling you reasons why we're seeing the surge in price and the fluctuation here and then when the prices go a little high and then in the day it dips. One of the major factors here, we'll keep telling you, the crisis in the Middle East, the Hormuz premium is a very big factor here. Yes, risk from the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. It added nearly $7 to Brent's price over U.S. West Texas Intermediate current status. Yes, and as of early this morning, we can tell that Brent has resumed its uptrend. So remember we told you not to despair. Yeah, it has resumed an upward trend, trading above $83.50 per barrel as we speak. We did tell you not to despair. The market, due to the Middle East crisis and all that, we're seeing these appreciations and dip. Investors who are strong-willed are continue to take up profit. People are mopping up profit. You can see the performance on Etena PLC, where the oil and gas sector people are really in and cashing out in the Nigerian palace, whereas the faint-hearted are taking a defensive position, moving their holdings to other sectors to avoid any unforeseen circumstances. Now let's quickly run to the American market. Yes, moving over to the American market, as yesterday, March 4th, 2026, the American market rebounded as oil prices stabilized and economic data show resilience despite the geopolitical tensions that we'll talk about. Now, what are the market indices here? S&P 500, made a positive 0.78%, going up to 6,869.50 points, and Nasdaq here equally closed at 22,807.48, making a positive 1.29%, and then led by these adjustments are led by tech and crypto recoveries. And when we take a look at Dow Jones, equally made a positive plus 0.49%, closing at 48,739.41 points. What are the key market indicators here or highlights? We'll see that the tech and AI heavyweights like Amazon, which closed in the positive of 3.9%, and Nvidia equally plus 1.7% drove the recovery. Yes, semiconductor stocks rebounded after a volatile start to the week. Now we're looking at crypto surge. Yeah, Coinbase and other crypto-linked stocks rallied following signs of U.S. legislative support for digital asset market structures. And then when we take a look, going to gathering the economic data, we see that jobs at the private sector employment grew by 63,000 in February, beating expectations. And when you move to the service sector, you see that ISM services index job to 56.1, signaling strong productivity. Yes, and then we'll keep moving forward to the Fed BH book, where the Federal Reserve reported a choppy but slight to moderate growth, noting that while inflation remains a concern, business are optimistic about the coming months. Now, joining along to the European market, we're moving fast due to time, and we'll tell you that the European market staged a relief rally, rebounding from a 2-day, bruising sell-off triggered by the Iran-US conflict. We'll tell you that Stoxx 600, is in the positive of a plus 1.2%. That's closing at 612.72 points. That's a big rebound after nearly 6% losses earlier in the week. And that's Germany is equally in the positive 1.74%. Yes, closing around 24,205 points, led by tech and energy equipment. TSE 100, that's UK, is equally in the positive 0.66%, making 10,554 points, bounced off a 2-week low. And CAC, CSE 40 France, is equally in the positive plus 1.21%, closing at 8,202. And what are the market drivers here as we move fast enough? The stocks, we can tell you, rose following reports of potential back channel contact between Iran and the US to discuss ending hostilities. Yes, and joining along, looking at the sectoral performance, we can tell you, as we are moving fast enough due to time, that technology, technology drove this whole drive. Looking at defense, who are those reaping benefits from the whole, skirmishes around the Middle East, drove these earnings as we move along. Even Adidas is equally, somehow in the negative. They are not in the energy, so that's the sports sector. And then rushing down briefly to tell you about the oil relief shared. You see that price stabilized as crude prices pulled back during the interday, as President Trump promised Navy escorts for tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. Rushing down to the Asian markets, where we'll lay it off at the Asian market, we saw that the Asian market, is showing flight safety as we speak. KOSPI, that's South Africa, minus 12%, and we see Nikkei and Hang Seng all in the negative due to the happenings around the Middle East. And China, for example, is equally relatively resilient, but weighed down by weak manufacturing sector, and that's due to the supply shortfall from the closure of the Straits of Hormuz. And this is the much we can take today on the Aneke TV Business Parlor, where we'll bring you up to date with your portfolio, your investments and others. But one thing we'll tell you is that the market is rebounding despite profit takers as we speak. Things will straighten up, and the Nigerian market, despite the dip, there is a lot of profit taking. People are taking positions, while those who are already in the market, some are realigning and taking defensive positions. But you can see that profit takers are moving, cashing out in the Nigerian palace. So there's no need to despair. It's time to take position. You can take position in the dip and reap as soon as possible. And that's the much we can take today at Aneke TV Business Parlor. Till we come your way same time tomorrow. I remain your host, Uche Osai. Invest wisely.
In a world that never stands still, where stories break in seconds and moments shape history, one station keeps you connected to your nation, to the continent, to the world.
From breaking news to powerful stories, from business and politics to culture, lifestyle and entertainment, we inform, we inspire, we keep you ahead.
This is more than television. This is your window to everywhere that matters.
Aneke TV. Move with the world.
In a world that never stands still, where stories break in seconds and moments shape history, one station keeps you connected to your nation, to the continent, to the world.
From breaking news to powerful stories from business and politics to culture, lifestyle and entertainment. We inform, we inspire, we keep you ahead.
This is more than television. This is your window to everywhere that matters.
Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Every day, your health shapes your life, your strength, your choices, your future. Because knowledge is the first step towards well-being.
This is Health Matters, only on Aneke TV.
Every day, your health shapes your life, your strength, your choices, your future. Because knowledge is the first step towards well-being.
This is Health Matters, only on Aneke TV.
My name is Dr. Emmanuel Ihechi Asonye. I am the CEO of Omenka App LLC. I created Omenka App for the preservation of Igbo language and culture. Omenka App was established in New Mexico and it is headquartered in Albuquerque, but currently we are also being registered in Nigeria. We have a website. We are also on social media because my app is primarily for the Igbo community. In 2006, something significant happened among the Igbo community. UNESCO predicted that Igbo language was going to go into extinction, and that was because Igbo people are one of the most traveled people in the whole world. So the more children are born outside of Igbo land, the more they get disconnected. The app is on iOS, it's also on Android. Access the website and download the app from there. And over 2,000 people are using the app right now. But there's an app that will teach you about Igbo culture, Igbo people. We have Igbo poems, we have riddles and jokes, we have Igbo proverbs, then we have the word section where you are going to search Igbo words. Whatever word that you can find in English, you want to make sure it is found in the app in Igbo language. And I encourage everybody from their communities, you can do what we're doing in Omenka app with your own language and with your own culture. Do not allow your culture or your language to die.
Good morning and welcome to News Around the Globe on Aneke TV. I'm Good Hope Chukuma, your trusted window to the major developments across Nigeria. Glad to have you join us. Headlines. Federal High Court orders INEC chairman to appear before over alleged contempt. NAFDAC warns Nigerians over circulation of fake HIV test kits. On the foreign scene, over 200 feared dead in Democratic Republic of Congo man landslide. On business, President Bola Tinubu orders suspension of airport cashless payment policy. Now the news in details. The Federal Executive Council has approved projects valued at about 1.21 trillion naira for the rehabilitation and reconstruction of critical federal roads across Nigeria. The Minister of Works, Senator David Umahi, announced the approvals after the council meeting in Abuja. He said 427 billion naira was earmarked for the reconstruction of the 103-kilometer Ibadan-Ilesha dual carriageway, which he described as badly deteriorated and requiring complete rebuilding. Senator Umahi said the road will be reconstructed using reinforced concrete technology in line with the federal government's renewed infrastructure standard aimed at improving durability and reducing long-term maintenance costs. The council also approved major works on the Kano-Kongolam Road, the Abuja-Lokoja Highway, and the Sule-Jamina Road. while the aging Kata Bridge in Lagos will be demolished and replaced after structural assessments declared it unsafe for continued use. The Federal High Court in Abuja has ordered the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor George Amupitan, to appear in person before the court on March 10 over alleged contempt of court. Justice Obiora Igwatu issued the directive after the INEC chairman failed to appear for a scheduled hearing in a case filed by the National Rescue Mission, NRM. The suit arose from claims that the electoral body allegedly failed to comply with an earlier court judgment recognizing the chief Edozie Njoku-led National Executive Committee of the party. The court had earlier issued Form 48 formally warning the INEC chairman of possible sanctions, including imprisonment, should the alleged disobedience of the court order continue. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has reaffirmed its commitment to strictly enforcing regulations guiding the conduct of political parties ahead of future primary elections. INEC Chairman Professor George Amupitan made this declaration in a court at Ebene, Akwa Ibom State during the opening of a technical workshop on the review of INEC regulations and guidelines for political parties. The workshop, organized in partnership with the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, is aimed at strengthening internal party democracy and improving compliance with electoral regulations. Professor Amupitan said the revised 2026 guidelines would introduce stricter requirements for membership documentation, financial transparency, and greater inclusion of women, youth, and persons with disabilities in party structures. The Inspector General of Police, Mr. Olatunji Disu, has inaugurated an 8-member implementation committee to drive the proposed framework for state policing in Nigeria. The committee, chaired by Professor Olu Ogunsikan, is expected to provide recommendations on the operational structure and implementation strategy for the initiative. The move follows deliberations by the Nigerian Police Council, which endorsed measures aimed at strengthening community-based security and improving policing effectiveness across the country. The Inspector General said the initiative is part of ongoing reforms designed to improve professionalism, strengthen accountability, and bring policing closer to local communities. In the meantime, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Olatunji Disu, has warned that the Nigerian police force will not tolerate any conduct that violates human rights or undermines public confidence in the institution. He stated this during inaugural conference with senior police officers at the Peacekeeping Conference Center, Force Headquarters, Abuja. The Inspector General said respect for human rights remain fundamental to professional policing and critical to maintaining public trust in law enforcement institutions. He added that officers found engaging in misconduct or abuse of authority will face disciplinary measures, stressing that there will be no sacred cows in enforcing professional standards within the force. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has issued a public alert over the circulation of counterfeit unregistered HIV test kits in parts of the country. The agency said the affected product, identified as Visitech HIV Advanced Disease Test Kit, is being distributed through unauthorized channels and has not been evaluated or approved by NAFDAC. According to the agency, the authentic test kit is manufactured by Acobio Limited and carried the NAFDAC registration number A300153, while the counterfeit version falsely claims production by Omega Diagnostics Limited and lack proper regulatory approval. NAFDAC has directed its state coordinators to remove the fake products from circulation and advised health facilities and distributors to procure medical devices only from authorized sources. The Enugu state government has placed health authorities on high alert following reported outbreaks of Lassa fever in neighboring states. The Commissioner for Health in the state, Professor George Ugu, announced this while briefing newsmen in Enugu on the state's preparedness and response strategy. He said although no confirmed case has been recorded in Enugu state, nearby states such as Benue and Ebonyi have reported infections, necessitating enhanced surveillance and emergency preparedness. The Commissioner said rapid response teams have been deployed across all local government areas, while medical supplies, protective equipment, and public awareness materials have been positioned to ensure early detection and response. Governor Umar Namadi of Jigawa State has assured the public that justice will be pursued in the alleged abduction case involving Walida Abdul Hadi. The governor gave the assurance while meeting with the victim's family and legal representatives at the government house in DC. He said the state government has arranged medical rehabilitation and psychosocial support for the young victim and pledged continued assistance for her recovery and reintegration. Governor Namadi also directed relevant security agencies and judicial authorities to ensure that all those involved in the incident are properly investigated and prosecuted in accordance with the law. The Anambra State government has directed schools across the state to enforce strict attendance on Mondays as part of efforts to restore normal academic activities. The Commissioner for Education in the state, Professor Ngozi Chuma Ude, announced that any student who fails to attend school on Monday without valid reasons will face a 1-week suspension. The directive followed a meeting with school administrators in Onitsha, where authorities expressed concern over continued absenteeism linked to the sit-at-home practice. The state government said the policy is intended to protect the academic calendar and ensure that schools maintain the full 5-day learning schedule across the states. Remember that news around the globe is coming to you live from Aneke TV. Stay connected with us on all our social media platforms: Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at Aneke TV. Now a quick recap of major stories making the news. Federal High Court orders Aneke chairman to appear over alleged contempt of court. NAFDAC warns Nigerians over circulation of fake HIV test kits. Coming up shortly, over 200 feared dead in Democratic Republic of Congo mine landslide. President Bola Tinubu orders suspension of airport cashless payment policy. We'll be right back.
Every day, your health shapes your life, your strength, your choices, your future. Because knowledge is the first step towards well-being.
This
Is Health Matters, only on Aneke TV.
Welcome back. Authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo say more than 200 people have died following a landslide at the Rubaya coltan mine in the country's eastern North Kivu province. Officials say the disaster occurred after days of heavy rainfall, which triggered a massive collapse at the mining site, bearing scores of artisanal miners and workers operating in the area. The Congolese Ministry of Mines confirmed the casualty figures as rescue teams continued recovery operations while survivors were transported to hospitals in the regional capital, Goma. Rubaya is one of the world's most significant sources of coltan, a mineral used in the production of electronic components for mobile phones, computers, and aerospace technology, accounting for an estimated 15% of global supply. President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine says several countries have sought Kyiv's expertise in countering Iranian-designed drones used extensively in modern warfare. Zelensky disclosed this following discussions with the leaders of Bahrain and Kuwait, noting that Ukraine has developed extensive experience in defending against Shahid attack drones deployed by Russian forces since the beginning of the war. He said Ukraine remains in constant communication with the United States and other partners on strengthening defensive capabilities and sharing tactical knowledge on drone inception systems. The Ukrainian leader also indicated that diplomatic discussions involving Ukraine, Russia, and the United States could resume when the broader regional tensions linked to Iran stabilize. Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the United Kingdom says his government will maintain a measured approach to the escalating tensions between the United States and Iran. The Prime Minister made the statement in Parliament following criticism from United States President Donald Trump, who faulted Britain's cautious stance on supporting military operations against Tehran. Starmer explained that the United Kingdom had initially declined the request for the use of certain British bases for offensive operations, though it has continued to support defensive coordination with allied forces. He added that Britain remains committed to its long-standing security cooperation with the United States through intelligence sharing, military coordination, and regional security support. The government of Italy is evaluating a request to supply air defense systems to countries in the Gulf region amid rising security tensions linked to Iranian retaliatory attacks. Italian Defense Minister Guido Crosetto confirmed that Rome is assessing the possible deployment of SAM-T missile defense system developed jointly by France and Italy. The system is capable of intercepting ballistic missiles and aerial threats, including drones, and has been widely used in advanced integrated air defense networks. Crosetto stressed that any potential deployment will be carefully reviewed to ensure that Italy's existing military commitments, particularly support for Ukraine, are not affected. Authorities in Syria temporarily suspended operations at border crossings with Lebanon following security concerns linked to possible Israeli military action. Officials from the Syrian Port Authority said both land and maritime departures were briefly halted after intelligence reports suggested potential strikes targeting the corridor. The precautionary shutdown raised concerns among travelers and transport operators using the strategic route connecting the two neighboring countries. Border authorities later confirmed that operations resumed after the security alert subsided, restoring movement across the corridor. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has directed Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria (FAN) to suspend the newly introduced cashless payment policy at airport toll gates and parking facilities. The directive followed widespread complaints by travelers over traffic congestion and long queues shortly after the digital payment system was introduced. Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development Festus Keyamo confirmed the presidential decision after Federal Executive Council meeting in Abuja. The minister said the federal government will review the system and develop a more efficient framework that promotes transparency while ensuring convenience for passengers. The Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) has increased the country's gold reserves to about $3.5 billion as part of its strategy to strengthen foreign reserve assets. The Apex Bank confirmed the development in a statement, noting that the gold was sourced locally and refined to London Bullion Market Association standards. Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Cardoso, said the purchases were made through the National Gold Purchase Program, which allows the bank to acquire gold using the naira. The program is designed to diversify Nigeria's reserve portfolio while supporting the formalization of the domestic solid minerals and mining sector. Nigeria has begun implementing major reforms in its tax administration system with the transition from the Federal Inland Revenue Services (FIRS) to the Nigerian Revenue Service (NRS). Officials said the reform aims to modernize tax administration through improved technology and streamline legal frameworks. Technical assistant at the agency, Arambirin Aderonke Atoyebi, explained that the initiative will introduce digital invoicing systems, automated processes, and simplified tax compliance structures. She added that the reforms are intended to improve efficiency, expand the tax base, and create a more transparent and citizen-focused revenue administration system. The Anambra State Executive Council has approved more than 777 million naira for infrastructure, sports development, and security support projects across the state. Commissioner for Information Dr. Law Mefo said the approvals include 164.4 million naira as cost adjustments for the construction of an IAAF standard athletics track and natural grass football pitch at the Equilobia Stadium complex in Agwata local government area. The council also approved 72.7 million naira for road markings and thermoplastic speed bumps along the Afo or Echo Bossi Road in Idemili North local government area. Additionally, 122 million naira was approved for the installation of 40-foot container facilities to serve as temporary accommodation for security personnel across strategic locations in the state. Now in sports, Arsenal strengthened their push for the English Premier League title with a 1-0 victory over Brighton. The decisive goal came in the 9th minute when England international Bukayo Saka converted an early attacking move to put the North London side ahead. Brighton mounted sustained pressure in the second half, but Arsenal's defense remained disciplined to protect the narrow advantage. The victory secures 3 important points for manager Mikel Arteta's side as the title race intensifies toward the closing stages of the season. Nigeria Super Eagles will now feature in the 2026 FIFA World Cup Inter-Confederation playoffs after the final qualification list was confirmed. The Federation of International Football Association, FIFA, listed the Democratic Republic of Congo as Africa's representatives for the playoff tournament. The confirmation effectively ends Nigeria's protest regarding the eligibility of players used during the decisive CAF qualifying match in November 2025. The development means the Super Eagles will miss the final qualification opportunity for 2026 tournaments, shifting focus toward preparations for future international competitions. And in entertainment, Nollywood actress Juliana Olayode has expressed concern over the growing Holy Spirit Carry Me social media trend. The actress criticized the viral challenge, saying it trivializes a sacred element of Christian belief for the purpose of humor and online engagement. Olayode urged entertainers and social media users to maintain respect for religious expressions while participating in online trends. She emphasized that while humor plays a role in digital culture, faith-based themes should be handled with greater sensitivity and reverence. Still in entertainment, Afrobeat singer Ira Star has shared a childhood video reflecting on her early passion for music and performance. The singer, whose real name is Oyinkansola Aderibigbe, posted the video on social media showing her energetic stage presence from a young age. Ira Star rose to international recognition after being discovered by Marvin Records founder Don Jazzy, eventually becoming one of the leading voices in contemporary Afrobeats. The singer recently gained further global acclaim after winning 2 awards at the 2025 MOBO Awards, marking a significant milestone in her music career. And finally, before we go on news around the globe, a recap of our top stories. The Federal High Court in Abuja has ordered the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Joash Amopiton, to appear before the court over alleged contempt proceedings linked to the commission's failure to comply with an earlier judgment regarding the leadership dispute within the National Rescue Mission political party. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has warned Nigerians about the circulation of counterfeit and unregistered HIV diagnostic kits, particularly fake versions of the Visitech HIV Advanced Disease Test Kit, urging healthcare providers to procure medical supplies only from licensed distributors. More than 200 people are feared dead following a landslide at Rubaya Coltan mine in North Kivu Province, Democratic Republic of Congo, triggered by heavy rainfall, with Congolese Ministry of Mines confirming the incident and rescue efforts ongoing around the mining community near Goma. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has ordered the suspension of the newly introduced cashless payment system at airports following widespread complaints of severe traffic congestions, with Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Mr. Festus Keyamo, confirming that the federal government will review the policy to ensure greater efficiency and convenience for passengers. That's news around the globe on Aneke TV. For more news and live updates, follow us across all social media platforms: Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at Aneke TV. I'm Good Hope Chukuma, thanking you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Need ad replacements, coverage for events, or the latest news stories? Call 070-3043-7110 right now. Aneke TV, move with the world.
My name is Dr. Emmanuel Ihechi Asonye. I am the CEO of Omenka App LLC. I created Omenka App for the preservation of Igbo language and culture. Omenka App was established in New Mexico, and it is headquartered in Albuquerque, but currently we are also being registered in Nigeria. We have a website. We are also on social media, because my app is primarily for the Igbo community. In 2006, something significant happened among the Igbo community. UNESCO predicted that Igbo language was going to go into extinction, and that was because Igbo people are one of the most traveled people in the whole world. So the more children are born outside of Igbo land, the more they get disconnected. The app is on iOS, it's also on Android. Access the website and download the app from there. And over 2,000 people are using the app right now. But there's an app that will teach you about Igbo culture, Igbo people. We have Igbo poems, we have riddles and jokes, we have Igbo proverbs, then we have the word section where you are going to search Igbo words. Whatever word that you can find in English, you want to make sure it is found in the app in Igbo language. And I encourage everybody from their communities, you can do what we're doing in Omenka app with your own language and with your own culture. Do not allow your culture or your language to die.
Nigeria is a nation of enormous potential, rich in people, culture, and natural resources. Yet, decades after independence, challenges persist: insecurity, communal clashes, youth unemployment, weak institutions, and corruption. Many of these problems stem from a deeper issue: the difficulty of managing Nigeria's diversity and translating competing ideas into practical solutions. At the heart of solutions is mediated convergence, bringing government, communities, and civil society together to find common ground. In Plateau State, local leaders, youth groups, and security agencies are negotiating grazing routes and implementing community-led peace initiatives. The result: reduced violence in areas historically prone to clashes. During the COVID-19 pandemic, collaboration between federal and state governments, traditional rulers, and religious institutions ensured that health directives were respected, showing how coordinated action saves lives. Nigeria's cosmo-philosophical ideologies combine indigenous values with global governance principles. Communal responsibility, consensus building, and respect for elders guide social cohesion, while democracy, accountability, and rule of law provide frameworks for modern governance. Anti-corruption campaigns paired with community education are proven more effective than enforcement alone. Practical applications of these ideas can address Nigeria's challenges. Coordinated intelligence sharing between military, police, and community leaders reduces violence in Zamfara, Borno, and Kaduna. Youth unemployment initiatives like N-Power, combined with university private sector partnership and tech hubs in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt, equip young Nigerians with marketable skills. Economic development, supporting smallholder farmers with cooperative models, access to finance, and modern supply chains strengthens local economies while preserving community structures. Governance, strong transparent institutions enforce policies, mediate conflicts, and build public trust. The way forward requires dialogue platforms that include all stakeholders, harmonizing local and global ideas, empowering citizens, and leveraging technology to enhance access and transparency. Building a modern Nigeria is not just about infrastructure or wealth. It is about harnessing diversity, aligning ideas, and turning philosophy into practical action. Through structured collaboration, inclusive governance, and shared values, Nigeria can transform its challenges into opportunities for peace, unity, and sustainable development. The task is immense, but achievable. With dialogue, collective action, and practical solutions, a modern, stable, and prosperous Nigeria is within reach.
Nigeria's march towards the 2027 general elections is more than a routine democratic cycle. It is shaping up to be a defining test of institutional maturity, political culture, and national cohesion. Elections in Nigeria have historically served as mirrors reflecting both progress and persistent fault lines. As political actors reposition and citizens recalibrate expectations, the stakes are unmistakably high. The 2027 will not simply be about leadership transition, it will be about whether Africa's most populous nation can consolidate democratic credibility, deepen governance accountability, and manage intensifying socio-economic pressures without destabilizing its fragile political equilibrium. Public expectations heading into 2027 are likely to be unusually elevated, driven less by campaign rhetoric and more by lived realities. Chief among these is the demand for economic stability and opportunity. Inflationary pressures, currency volatility, unemployment, and cost of living anxieties have reshaped political consciousness. Voters increasingly assess governments not by ideological narratives but by tangible economic outcomes: jobs, purchasing power, infrastructure, and social mobility. There is also a growing insistence on governance effectiveness. Citizens are showing declining tolerance for symbolic politics. Competence, policy cohesion, and measurable results across security, healthcare, education, and public services now weigh heavily in electoral judgment. Electoral integrity, too, has become central. After reforms introduced by the Electoral Act 2022 and the deployment of technologies such as beavers, Nigerians expect elections that are transparent, technologically reliable, and free from manipulation. The bar has been raised, and any regression could provoke significant public backlash. Equally important is the demand for accountability and trust restoration. The widening gap between political elites and ordinary citizens continues to fuel skepticism. Consequently, the 2027 elections will be judged not only on who wins, but on whether democratic processes are widely perceived as fair, inclusive, and credible. Several issues are poised to shape the contest. Economic performance will dominate political discourse, with debates likely to revolve around fiscal management, debt sustainability, industrialization, youth employment, and diversification beyond oil dependency. Security will remain an existential concern. Persistent challenges ranging from insurgency to criminal violence have placed state authority under strain, compelling voters to scrutinize strategies for restoring stability and strengthening institutional capacity. Nigeria's demographic realities further complicate the landscape. The youth population, increasingly digitally connected and potentially and politically expressive, is defining electoral engagement. Political parties that fail to adapt to issue-driven, technology-mediated mobilization risk strategic disadvantage. Questions surrounding federalism, restructuring, and resource governance will also continue to animate debate, reflecting enduring tensions within Nigeria's political architecture. Underlining these dynamics are structural challenges. Despite technological improvements, skepticism regarding result collection, judicial outcomes, and political interference persists. Perception gaps can be as destabilizing as actual irregularities. The influence of money in politics remains deeply corrosive, while identity-based polarization continues to shape electoral alignments, sometimes transforming competition into conflict. Technology itself presents a paradox. While enhancing transparency, it introduces vulnerabilities, system failures, cybersecurity threats, and the rapid spread of misinformation. Meanwhile, the increasing judicialization of elections, though constitutionally grounded, can erode public confidence if perceived as inconsistent or politicized. Voter apathy, driven by cynicism and distrust, poses an additional threat to participatory legitimacy. Strengthening democratic resilience requires a multi-layered response. Electoral credibility depends fundamentally on institutional dependence, transparency, and operational reliability. Campaign finance enforcement must become more robust to curb undue influence. Electoral technologies require continuous auditing and safeguards to sustain trust. Equally vital is the cultivation of an issue-based political culture supported by civil society, media, and academia. Ultimately, democratic stability rests heavily on elite behavior. Commitment to peaceful competition, respect for institutional rules, and restraint in rhetoric are indispensable. Elections alone do not validate democracy. Credibility of processes, integrity of institutions, and confidence of citizens do. Nigeria's 2027 elections will unfold within a complex interplay of economic pressures, demographic shifts, technological transitions, and political recalibration. They will test whether reforms translate into trust, whether competition strengthens rather than fractures national unity, whether governance outcomes reshape political legitimacy. As Nigeria advances towards 2027, the defining question is no longer whether elections will hold. It is whether they will deepen democratic resilience, reinforce national stability, and align political leadership more closely with citizen aspirations. The answer will shape not just an electoral outcome, but the country's democratic trajectory.
Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, 042. Pleasant greetings to everyone watching. You are tuning to Sunrise on Aneke TV, where every sunrise begins with delightfulness and purpose. Bringing you today's daily dose of brightness and joy. I'm Good Hope Chukwuma, coming to you live from our studio here in Enugu.
It is said that no matter how dark the night, the day must surely break. I'm Uche Osai. Good morning to you, our global audience, and wherever you are, at home, making breakfast, or in transit, or even at your desk. Thank you for letting us into your space this beautiful morning. We're here to refresh, inform, and motivate.
Well, you know, it's Thursday, 5th of March, 2026. It's another new day, a new and wonderful edition of Sunrise. A power-packed morning with the latest news, weather, and business stock update, hot topics, and that Sunrise pack to help you own the day.
So, relax, grab that cup of coffee or tea, enjoy the ride, because the sunrise is here.
Yes, the sunrise is here, and coming up shortly, we'll kick things off with our quote of the day, something thoughtful to shift your perspective and help you stay well driven or focused.
And then it's straight into the day's top headlines. All the key news update that you need to remain informed will be shared, hot and tasty.
Okay, we'll also give you a full weather forecast for cities across the southeast and beyond, so you know what to expect before stepping out.
And then we'll wrap things up by letting you into the Nigerian business landscape and, of course, the happenings around our football.
Okay, now to our inspiration segment, and it's coming from a quote which says, "A lot of people don't need medicine. They need someone who can listen and understand them." It says a lot of people don't need medicine. They need someone who can listen and understand them. The message here is that a lot of people don't actually need medicine. Yes, they simply need someone who can truly listen to them and understand what they're going through. Many people carry heavy thoughts, silent struggles, and emotional pain inside their hearts. And sometimes what heals them is not a prescription, but a conversation. When someone feels heard, valued, and understood, a huge burden can be lifted from their mind. Sadly, in a fast-paced world, people are quick to advise, judge, or dismiss others without first listening. This quote reminds us that empathy is powerful. Taking time to listen to someone, showing patience, and trying to understand their feelings can bring comfort that no pill can provide. Sometimes the greatest help we can give another person is simply our attention, our compassion, and a listening ear. Mr. Che?
All right. Looking at this quote and hearing you speak to empathy, we'll bring it home and break it down. What does he talk about? The medicine you need is care. That's the medicine we need. Care. Here looking at this quote saying a lot of people don't need medicine. They need someone who can listen and understand them. It speaks to the eternal medicine which every mortal takes. Though higher mammal, human beings, animals, even when you go to the wild, you see that every species of creature needs this very medicine, and that is what love, that is care, and that's what the world at this point in time is in needs and is in short supply while the demand is high. When was the last time you picked up your phone to call someone and tell them that you love them? you really care. When was the last time you called your aged parents to say, how are you? I truly love you. You know, those few words of care can in itself resurrect dead bones. It can give confidence, bring hope. That's all the medicine that someone needs. To know that someone out there cares, that someone really loves them, believe in them. It can keep them going for another hour. So the little you can do this morning is when you open that shop this morning, turn to your next neighbor and say, I hope you slept well. That alone can bring life back. Show them that you care. That's the medicine that we need in our world today. There's no against, talking much about it. Just show that you care. Empathy. That's what the world needs now. And that's the greatest medicine. So wherever you find yourself, at your workplace, in your business environment, in schools, even when you're in search of the new greener pasture, submitting that proposal, just take time to let the people around you see that you love and care for them. That could be the only medicine someone needs this morning to resurrect, to rise again and shine. The sun is up and it's shining. So give someone that natural medicine so they too can rise and shine.
Wonderful. So wonderful. I mean, from what Mr. Uche said, give someone that shine so that they too can shine. Give someone that sun so that they too can shine. It's amazing. Now we go over to the weather update for today.
Yes, we'll take a look at the weather across major cities in Southeast today.
Good morning, Oka. Mostly sunny with a very little cloud cover. Temperatures pushing the mid-30s Celsius. Meaning the afternoon will feel quite intense and you should expect strong sunshine, warm winds and a sweaty commute if you are out during peak hours.
Good morning, Coal City, and welcome to Enugu. Enugu State this morning wears a mixture of sunshine and light clouds with temperatures around 35 to 36 degrees Celsius. So, the day stays bright and hot while evening gradually becomes calmer and slightly cooler but still warm.
Good morning, Ebonyi Abakaliki. Likely one of the hottest spots with dry air and clear skies. Temperatures may touch 36 to 37 degrees today, so expect dusty, sunny conditions and a scorching afternoon that makes shade and water your best friends.
And good morning, Imo State. Welcome to my favorite city of Owerri. Now, Owerri will be sunny with a bit more humidity compared to other states. Temperature will sit around 34 to 35 degrees Celsius, meaning it may feel hotter than the actual reading, and you should expect a warm, slightly sticky afternoon before midnight.
Good morning, Omar here. Expect a bright and hot day with temperatures climbing to around 34 to 36 degrees Celsius. The sun will be strong through the afternoon, so stepping out early in the morning or later in the evening will feel more comfortable, while staying hydrated will help beat the heat.
So, wherever you are in the Southeast today, stay safe, stay cool, dress light, but do keep an umbrella handy. Remember that either rain or shine, we've got you covered. And this is your weather report here on Sunrise at Aneke TV. We'll take a short break and we'll return with more updates. Stay with us. The Insight with Uche Osai.
Having the political will to confront whatever is the challenges.
Igbo man wrestles with
the tortoise that had a lot of ingenuity, a lot of ideas, and the tireless.
It will take the bold mind of government in power to say, let there be electoral reform, no matter whose heart is God.
I was there. We did everything. All of us came and supported him with our last block.
In-depth analysis, expert views, real voices, uncover the stories shaping Nigeria today. Deep dive, honest, unfiltered, only on the insight with Uche Osai on Aneke TV. Join us.
Still on Sunrise here on Aneke TV. Let's take a quick look at what's making the front page headlines across major newspapers today. So we check the Nation's newspaper, and which says state police has come to stay. Necessary, inevitable, says IG. Now we go over to the Punch. It says state police, IG sets up panel to propose framework. Now we go over to the Vanguard, which says boost for state police as IGP sets up panel on framework. Now we go over to the Daily Trust, where we see state police framework begins. Now we check the Daily Sun newspaper headline. We're seeing Aneke begins review of political parties guidelines. And we are going over to the Guardian. We are saying state police committee resumes amid framework abuse concerns. Now we go back to Punch, where we are going to anchor just shortly. Punch says state police, IG sets up panel to propose framework. It says the Inspector General of Police has established a panel to develop a framework for the possible creation of state police in Nigeria, aiming to guide its structure, operations, and oversight to enhance local security while addressing concerns about misuse.
All right. Looking at this headline, the issue of state police is something that's been at the front burner for a while now. This, if one may recall, is not the first time we're hearing call for state police. It becomes news now that the new IG of police, Tunji Dusu, is now, we have been seen in the headline, inaugurating a panel to look at the framework of this proposed state police. But when you look at the call over time, even institutions, and you look at these pan-socio-cultural organizations that we have across the country, starting from Arewa Consultative Forum, even the Ohaneze Ndibo, and you move over to the Salsa, Pandef, and the likes of them, over time have been, clamoring for issues around state police. This argument, has been making run over the years. And it seems that in this period, it's gaining more traction in this very dispensation. But over time, we've witnessed arguments, those who are for and those who are against, as to the issues around state police. But one thing is obvious in these times, that the federal police, as it is presently constituted, seem overwhelmed with the security challenges that is bedeviling the nation at this point in time. And there is need, therefore, to not just recalibrate the federal police, but to look inward and see that what Nigeria demands at this point in time is a new dimension to policing. And one of those new dimensions is the call for state police. So one is becoming overjoyed to see that the president of Nigeria and the IG of police are lending credence to this call. Over time, people have panicked and, reason to argue against having state police in Nigeria due to foreseen abuse by state actors. And when you talk about state actors, you look at how the issues they raise is how has at the subnational, the state governors, or perhaps even the local government chairman, been able to handle the little security apparatus within their control. So, subject to this abuse, many stand against issue of state police. But like I did say, one can no longer stand on that argument given the challenges that we're witnessing in this era. You look at the rise of insecurity, that's bedeviled our nation, where people cannot travel freely. We cannot overemphasize that point, where the bandits are beginning to take over territories. People are kidnapped and killed at will. the issue here, one would ask, is to look at the benefits of having state police. And the question arises, will state police help to steady or stem the tide of security challenges that we're witnessing across board? The answer becomes yes. Then one begins to look at how do we now stem the situation from, control by state actors. And if you listen very well and follow the argument over time, you've seen that even former state governors who are no longer in power have over time come out to support the issue around state police. And one of such issues that would lead credence to why there is need for state police at this time is when you look at, for example, the governor of Zamfara State. I love citing him as an example, who over time has expressed a handicap to having a handle on security issues around his state. Is unquote that he did say that they know where these bandits reside. They know where they are. But more often, because they do not have control of security apparatus within their domain, they cannot lead an onslaught into combating these security threats, leading to asking a critical question. Why is it that the state governors cannot control entirely the security of their state? And you find that answer in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which makes state policing or police in Nigeria a federal, a federal tool. That the call and control must come from the center. You have a centralized police where you have an IG of police who takes direct order from the president. So therefore, when at the state level you have a commissioner of police within your domain, more often he takes his order from the center, and therefore you cannot in entirety marshal out your own security plans on how to combat security challenges within your domain. And having said all this now becomes expedient that will look into areas of around instituting state police or community policing, as many would want to say. And like I did mention, it becomes even more heartwarming that the body language of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu seems to be in support of institutionalizing state police at this point in time. And he is one when you look at him, you will see that he is one that could marshal out the opinion both at the legislature, at the subnational level, and at the local government level to muzzle the required constitutional numbers to see that we are able to get the legal backing to have a state police. So hearing the new IG of police, talking and stating, committing a committee to look at the framework, tells you that yes, actions are in place. But one thing that we need to, call is that they need to expedite this action. We've passed what the challenges that we are facing as a people in terms of insecurity is no longer where we continue to do the Nigerian usual of setting committees. And I tell you, if you go to the archive of government, you will see committee reports that are not implemented. I remember the Oputa panel is one of the late panels that you have or committees. Where are they implemented? The Udoji report, where it was implemented. There are a lot of reports that are gathering dust in government cabinets. So beyond setting up these panels, to propose a framework and all that, they should see to it that there is a time frame, so that we see that action is put in place to expedite needed action and framework. Yes, when one listens to him and Mr. President, Mr. President always says that, especially when he was talking to the senators at the presidential breakfast at the presidential palace, he did tell them that yes, all efforts needs to be geared towards the state police, as that will see that the decentralized police would strengthen security and grassroots and improve a rapid response around the grassroots. And that's one thing that is lacking, because when you see the security challenge that we face, where the bandits or the terrorists, when they strike, what is the hour lapse before we were able to respond? And this issue is to the fact that the place as is presently constituted and the security architecture is overwhelmed. Therefore, you need to have a localized place in place via the state police to be able to have rapid response to issues. When you have this framework in place and you institutionalize state police, there's no doubt that every community, every look and cranny at the subnational will be able to be policed, because now it will be on need basis. If, for example, in Enugu State, when they check the number of local governments they have and they're able to marshal out beyond the local government, you have the communities that constitute the local government. Or in Enugu State, where we'll see that developments are channeled towards constituencies, you have developments around constituencies and wards, you will be able to have men from these various wards, integrated into state police and marshaled to, police these communities, these wards and this territory. So it will be on need basis and no longer the centralized policing that we'll have. But yes, I agree with the idea of police in setting up this panel, because there has to be a synergy between when it is given that legal backing to have a state police. There has to be a synergy between the state police and the federal police to see that yes, there is effective and right framework to guide their activities. So, and one other thing here is that while I give credence to his proposing and setting up a panel, is that at the end of the day, if we have that legislative backing and the state police becomes a go, then the new recruits will be trained by the states, the current police as we have it, because they would have to need time before you begin to have structures in place. So you may need to leverage on establishing structures that you have, which is that of the current Nigerian police force. However, one would call that beyond the issue of setting up frameworks and modalities for the state police, that we should find a way to see that this training jettisons the old practice as we knew policing in Nigeria. Let it be a policing that wears a human approach to policing, not the high-handed level of police where the civilians or the citizens cannot relate effectively with police. If you move across Nigeria and you see the way police interacts with citizens, you will know that the mantra that police is your friend is truly in existence, which cannot be said to be same in our climate. So, with the issue of state police, one would expect that we'll begin to rethink and regenerate a new police force that will become, the yardstick to measure policing. Beyond the challenges that we face, we realize that one of the major challenge is that who is policing the police themselves? And when you talk about who is policing the police themselves, you now look at issue around their welfare, which is a major challenge why you will not have the federal police as is presently constituted be so effective in combating crime. You shed tears when you go to police quarters, the police barracks, and you see the very bad condition from which these police officers are meant to reside with their family, and then you may not expect anything different, especially in terms of ideology and behavior. Most of the places, most of the quarters are in total disrespect and neglect. You can't even talk of light. So when you see a policeman becoming aggressive, or they are overtly materialistic in the discharge of their duties, then you take a precursor to where they are coming from. And these are the things that we will look to be able to isolate and negate as we go into state police. And then the right framework, the constitutional framework, should be such that to allay the fears who have over the years opposed issues around state police by saying that there's no one individual in terms of the subnational or the state governors and the trickling it down to the local government chairman that would be able to abuse the process. No, but if one looks at issues around, for example, when you go to Kano, for example, you see the Hisba, right? When you go to Lagos State, for example, you see LASMA. When you move to Kaduna, for example, you see Cadiz, right? So, or Karota in Kano State as well. You see, these are forms of state police that, even though they are channeled towards traffic and other areas, but if we can at the subnational be able to manage this parallel organization when you talk about traffic and the Federal Road Safety Corps, and you're able to, synergize and manage this whole at the subnational level, then there's no gainsaying the fact that we can be able equally to manage a state police. This in itself, one may begin to look at the required resources. But I tell you that the resources shouldn't be a challenge here. It's about appropriating the right resources, which were at this moment we're celebrating this administration that there is more fund available at the subnational. So what you need to do is channel the security funds that you make available to the state governors into the state police. So I tell you, the resources will be available. The will is what at this point in time that we should speak to, that those players at the national level and at the subnational level should be able to come together, give it a go once and for all, away from rhetorics where we continue to look at the front pages of newspaper and television and we deliberate on these things and everyone goes to bed. No, given what we are facing as a people, the issue of state policing for me is long overdue and should have been implemented by now. And this is one area I do not see challenge, being that the APC-led administration is in total dominance. When you go by the number of states they control. So if Mr. President and the handlers of Mr. President can pick up a call, their phone, and through a call, they can whip all the state legislatures, the federal legislatures, they can whip them in line and will get the needed vote or support we need to create state police. And there's no doubt that that can be achieved. If we are seeing the speedy passage of bills in the Senate and the House of Rep being controlled by the APC, then this will not be a challenge as well if they have that will to implement it. And they should have the will to implement, because this is something that has to do with the very foundation of this country. You cannot see your territory and let your territory become an ungoverned state. That means government in itself is failing at its core and primary duty. And I know the president will not let that happen under his watch. Therefore, I expect them to expedite action beyond rhetorics, beyond forming of committees. Let us begin to see the legal framework for a state police so that we can begin to steady the tide. Let us begin to, take the onslaught against the insurgents, against the bandits and the kidnappings that we have around other states in Nigeria. When we talk about insecurity and insurgents, a number of times we will take a look towards the north more. But there's nowhere in Nigeria that is as safe when you compare where we are coming from as a people. Things have so degenerated that people no longer move and travel willingly. I asked people the other day, nobody is willing to, people when they take night routes during travels, and people are quite apprehensive. But this was something we used to enjoy at one point in this nation, where you do your business, for example, in Enugu, and by tomorrow morning you want to wake up in Kano and attend to other things. And these things are no longer like that. I've known a number of transport companies that have shut down due to insecurity because they can no longer ply the roads at night. That's not even given to other issues, but the whole issue of insecurity has become an albatross on this nation. And every framework, every modality should be put in place, even having beyond state police that we are talking. I am one of the advocates of community policing as a way to see that insecurity is curbed in Nigeria.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We go over to the newspaper that we have next, and we're talking about the Sun, a Daily Sun. And the headline in the Daily Sun says, 2027, Aneke begins review of political parties' guidelines. 2027, Aneke begins review of political parties' guidelines. The Independent National Electoral Commission, Aneke, has started reviewing the operational guidelines for political parties ahead of the 2027 general elections. The move aims to strengthen party regulation, improve compliance with electoral laws, and ensure a smoother and more transparent electoral process.
All right. Looking at this headline, 2027, Aneke begins review of political parties' guidelines. Speaking to from Josh Amopitan, the chairman of Aneke, is quite a commendable move to make, especially given the new Electoral Act 2026 that is now in place, having been signed, by Mr. President, and therefore the whole political parties and Aneke has to, toe the new guideline, and the political parties in Nigeria are under the watch of INEC. INEC is the watchdog of political parties, and like the INEC chairman Amupitan rightly says, they have to make sure that the parties operations are in tandem with the new regulations, especially as it has to do with internal party democracy and their politics, such that it will be one that will be in tandem and according to the new guidelines of the Electoral Act. If you go by the number of the speculations of the new Electoral Act, for example, we know that this new Electoral Act dictates that political parties, for example, before congresses, need to furnish INEC with digital register of their members before they can embark on a congress, on a convention, and all that. And there is equally new modalities on party primaries. And these are issues or areas that INEC must make sure that there is total compliance. And let me tell you one thing: if you do not have party democracy, then the democracy that you want to be, will be negated and be a practice in breach. You need to ensure democracy thrives from the internal arrangements of the party organs. How do they arrive at their candidates? So there has to be a system in place to check that the right candidates emerge, no longer situations where some bigwigs in political parties comes up and they decide to force members on other political players. So it's now within INEC to see that the quality of internal party democracy has a direct bearing on secondary election, that is equally conducted by INEC. So for me, that's a kudos. But though you remember that this Electoral Act is still in contention, there's still a whole lot of issues, contentious issues around the bill. But we'll continue to watch and see how the political parties and INEC will navigate these whole issues. Remember that during a town hall meeting recently, the INEC chairman did tell Nigerians that they shouldn't be expecting in 100% election, that Nigerians desire too much, and that there's nowhere in the world where you have 100% election. But be that as it may, I tell you one thing that Nigerians want, beyond having a credible party primaries, beyond the integrity and transparency of their internal party affairs and dealings, Nigerians want to see an election that is not just free and fair, but a very credible election. And that leads you to the questions around the modalities for this election, and where this whole new act seems to be a hanging bone on the neck of political parties, because a lot of them have come out. I remember the spokesperson of NPP, calling this whole Electoral Act as a mechanism between INEC and the incumbent to see that the incumbent emerges unopposed. And that's to say that there are a whole lot of issues that will be, that will continue to be discussed around the new Electoral Act. But one thing is that INEC will continue to play its role, and that is that of a watchdog over political parties. So internal democracy is quite important. And one thing is that, yes, political parties, we have many of them. There is a criteria, and the INEC has to make sure that these political parties met the guideline, at least the stipulated guidelines for political parties to fly at the national level. And INEC has to do this, and in that we will commend them. But while I tell you that as we journey along in 2026, we'll continue to look and see how things unfold, especially how the political parties, especially opposition political parties, how they will navigate through the new Electoral Act, and how INEC will stand on this new Electoral Act to bequeath us an election that will be, generally accepted to be free, fair, and credible. And that's the benchmark and the basis that every Nigerian asks for. And a whole lot of issues have been meted at around, the transmission of results in real time. And INEC has come out, publicly to let us know that, yes, that they have the capacity, they have the capability, speaking to Beavers, that has the capacity to not just recognize voters, it has the capacity to store and transmit these results in real time, and where there is no network, they will at that point in time, till you get to where there is network, is available, it will transmit the result. So going by what the impression INEC is creating, the question remains from the minds of these political parties and the generality of Nigerians, if INEC will detach human error from this whole the planning and the conduct of the 2027 election moving forward. And people have cited issues around the FCT election, that just off-cycle election that just happened recently, where a number of polling units, were moved from where it was, that voters became confused and were unable to locate their polling booths. And that should not, be allowed to happen going forward into the general election. Be that as it may, INEC still have time to put himself and his house in order. But one major fear in this very election going forward, especially dealing with INEC conviction that they have the material, the resources, and if fund is made available, funding becomes another big challenge to the free conduct of the next election. But where that is available, what the generality of Nigerians clamor for is that INEC will ensure that there are little or no human interference or human error in the coming election.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for that comment. And we go over to the next newspaper, where we have the Nation's newspaper. It's in the Nation's newspaper. It's one of the headlines. It says CBN boosts foreign reserves with 3.5 billion gold stockpile. CBN opens foreign reserves in gold with $3.5 billion gold stockpile. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has strengthened the country's foreign reserves by adding 3.5 billion worth of gold, a move aimed at shoring up financial stability, supporting the naira, and boosting Nigeria's external reserves. Let me take it again. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has strengthened the country's foreign reserves by adding $3.5 billion worth of gold, a move aimed at shoring up financial stability, supporting the naira, and boosting Nigeria's external reserves.
All right. This is quite commendable to, CBN for a while now has been hitting the right chords, coming out with the right policies over time. When you check the positions that the CBN has taken, especially coming into 2026, there has been a lot of kudos and commendation to the CBN for that regard. Remember that the Nigerian foreign reserve is being strengthened, for a 13-year high. We were expecting a 13-year high in our external foreign reserve, which we're told has risen up to $50.45 billion US, which has never happened in the last 13 years. So that is kudos to CBN, especially given that by February, in 2025, we are still hovering around the 40 billion, 45 to 46 billion. And then in this third month of 2026, we've hit, that benchmark of around 50 point something US dollars is enough reason to commend the CBN. But looking at the headline in the Nation newspaper, where we are informed that the CBN has moved to open foreign reserve in gold with 3.5 billion US dollars. And I tell you one thing, this is a quite commendable move on the part of CBN. One may want to begin to ask the reason why CBN will want to invest in gold or make the reserves in gold. They are not far-fetched. One of the reasons one would allude to this is issue around diversification. Remember that gold reduces over-reliance on other foreign major currencies like dollar, euro, and the rest of them, which have the risk of spiking, going high, and all that. But with gold, you have that needed stability. And again, another issue here is that with these reserves in gold, you will begin to attract even more foreign investors into your nation, who this time around will have that strong will that inflation by no means would erode their investments, being that yes, you have your reserves in gold, and gold is one thing that we know that is not influenced by inflation. In fact, during inflation, more often you see that gold, usually the price usually skyrocket and go high. Then another issue I've said is to protect the economy, against global shocks or geopolitical risk, like we're witnessing the crisis in the Middle East, where the US-Israeli-led alliance are taking onslaught against Iran, leading to that attempt at the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. For example, when you have escalations in this way, it has negative impact on economies, and in many ways, it begins to erode your foreign reserve. But CBN has smartly made a smart move by going to make that reservations happen in gold, which in itself will shore up our economy against such geopolitical risk. So there are a whole lot of issues and factors one will look at and see that this is a positive one, where I do not agree entirely with this administration in all the things they are doing. But when I take a look at the move of CBN of late, you have no, other but to commend the administration and the CBN for making this move, because when you look at it economically, they seem to be moves at the right direction. They are hitting the right chord. And remember that gold equally can be sold as collateral, so markets for that won't be, you won't look for markets just like the way, for example, where when the things begin to thrive better, you have a little bit stability around the globe and there are no geopolitical risk and attached, you see that the price of oil, Brent crude would begin to, trickle down and stabilize at a certain distance. But gold is that stable. So you can actually even use gold as collateral, even when you're seeking foreign loans, you use it as collateral. So it's a very good move in the right direction. And a lot of economists over time has canvassed for this move. And we're seeing CBN, this administration, and under the CBN watch, being bold enough to make such moves. So it's a quite a good move, and it's quite commendable that yes, we are seeing plans geared towards stabilizing the Nigerian economy. Yeah. But one thing we will not stop calling is that when we see these good policies, let them materialize in a way that it will impact the common man on the street positively. The common man wants to get to the market and know that the price of foodstuffs are coming down, and the administration is promising us, yes, that this price would definitely come down. So it is the impact overall on the common man that matters, and this where would equally call on the CBN and the managers of this economy to work towards ensuring that yes, there's impact, and you cannot achieve that without curbing the security challenges that we have in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. So deal with the security challenges, and with stable economic policies, you see that yes, the economy will stabilize, and there will be tremendous impact and improvement on the life of the people.
Yes, I think from what you said about this whole thing, something you said that gave me a sight is when you talked about making everything to come down to the common man. That is very important, because I think the common man is just looking up to, will the price of rice change in the market today? Will the price of beans change in the market today? Will the price of what I'm buying, what I used to buy 1,000 naira, 2,000 naira, will it come down to 500 naira? And that's what the common man, the man at the grassroots level, is always looking up to, and that security side. So I think this is a move to the right direction. I will say kudos to the federal government and CBN on this particular thing. Now we move over to the Punch newspaper, which says Obasanjo says, I won't die anytime soon. It's part of the headline in the Punch newspaper. You will see where Obasanjo said, I won't die anytime soon at 89. I won't die anytime soon, Obasanjo declares at 89. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo, at 89 years old, confidently declared that he has no plans of dying anytime soon, highlighting his enduring health and active presence in public life. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo, I take again, at 89 years old, confidently declared that he has no plans of dying anytime soon, highlighting his enduring health and active presence in public service. I've known Obasanjo all my life. I've known him all my life, and I think the major thing that I'm seeing here is that talking down of people have said age, the right age, the lifespan of Nigerians should be so and so age, 75, this age, that age, and the lifespan of people across the globe should be this. But seeing former President Olusegun Obasanjo saying that at 89 years old, that he's not even going to die, that he has no plans of dying. You know, Mr. Uche, what does it really tell us? What is it about, sir?
All right. Looking at former head of state, former president of Nigeria, who was born on March 6, 1937, approaching, the benchmark year of 89 years, which is quite remarkable. Just a year to 90, is quite commendable. And to that, I say happy birthday to former President Olusegun Obasanjo. We Nigerians celebrate you. We celebrate you for the leadership that you offered this nation. It was a life of service, all true. Yes, a life lived in the service of a fatherland, a soldier, an astute administrator and leader. So we say happy birthday, sir. Having said that, yes, being a former soldier, a military man, there's no gainsaying the fact that he has lived a healthy life, keeping a healthy lifestyle, regimented life. We know that in ways, advance the strength that we are seeing in old age. I've watched the former president, play football. I've watched him play squash, play long tennis as well. So there's no doubt that, yes, the lifestyle he has imbibed over years has helped him in old age. And looking at his comments, one will begin to laugh at, the former president, with his usual term, I dey kampe. So when we heard Mr. former president say, I dey kampe to those he termed never do well, while delivering a speech at the colloquium, to mark his 89th birthday, speaking on burden and blessing of leadership, reflection from global Africa to the world. He, after, him, is someone that, spares no fool. He would go at it, and is one who is courageous to take anybody and any government, given to the number of letters that he has written, over time. You remember that popular letter that he wrote to Goodluck Jonathan, before 2015. He's been one, and he wrote one to equally the late President Buhari. We are yet to see him write to this administration, but if eventually that happens, there is another bombshell coming. But he did, while delivering his colloquium speech, tell those he termed as never do well, who are circulating letters purportedly written by him, speaking to signs of his death and all that. And he's told them that I dey kampe. He's not going anywhere. That's what he's telling them. That there's no plan between him and God at this time for him to go anywhere. He will still be here, still serve as the moral conscience of the nation, one to call leaders to order and to account, and equally charge the third force, to see that our democracy is strengthened, and not just strengthened, that will have a democracy that would lead to have meaningful impact on the life of the citizens. So, like when I started, I say happy birthday to former President Olusegun Aremu Okikelawo Obasanjo. Yes, enjoy your retirement. 89 years is no small feat, and we pray that God will continue to give you the strength to live in this old age in wisdom, and to continue to advise the nation moving forward.
All right, thank you very much for that. Now we move over to the Guardian newspaper, where we have U.S. Embassy cancels visa appointments over Abuja protest scare. U.S. Embassy cancels visa appointment over Abuja protest scare. The U.S. Embassy in Nigeria has cancelled visa appointments in Abuja due to security concerns amid fear of protest, prioritizing the safety of staffs and applicants. The U.S. Embassy in Nigeria has cancelled visa appointments due to security concerns amid fears of protest, prioritizing the safety of staff and applicants.
All right. When one sees this as a news headline, you won't be surprised. Just yesterday, the U.S. did issue security alert to its citizens in Nigeria,
Yeah.
telling them to be careful of their movements around the country and Lagos. So coming this morning to see that they've suspended visa appointments, one will not be in doubt. The United States, for example, is a country that takes the security of its citizens to be paramount wherever they are. And seeing that happen in Nigeria, is not surprising, especially given the protests that I've witnessed across the country, especially in the northern part of the country, that we are told equally is, spreading into Lagos, where the Islamic movement of Nigeria had come out publicly to protest against the onslaught or the crisis between the US, Israel, and Iran, leading to the killing of Ayatollah Khomeini, where they have voiced vehemently against that move. Remember that the Islamic movement, Nigeria, take their relationship with Iran very seriously, being that they share similar faith and believe, and it's said that a number of Iran, and so when you see them protesting, it's not far-fetched that yes, you have people who have been, if one may use the word, indoctrinated to the ideologies of the Ayatollah and the Iran in this aspect, and is made manifest. The US government will always take measures to see that the citizens are safe wherever they are, and they've told you that yes, the security and welfare of their staff is paramount and is first, beyond or before granting visa interviews and appointment to anybody. And for me, that's a step in the right direction. We did in this station over time did critique our government for not being, proactive in their approach, when there are crises, global crises around the world, where there's need to move citizens away from crises around distressed areas before they will begin to make arrangements to see that they are able to, intervene and move the such spots. And that's where you see that the United States are quite contrary with what is obtainable in, especially around Nigeria. The United States government, even when they knew that yes, the escalation is becoming real, they will do everything to see that they move their people, and they continue giving you security alert. You, wherever you are, you see that wherever you are, you get the detailed alert. Anywhere they are in the world, outside the United States, while they are giving up-to-date information to their citizens within the homeland, they are giving immediate and up-to-date security alert to their nationals outside the homeland. So it's not out of place that you see that their nationals in Nigeria have been warned, and they will continue to give them that prior information. And this is a level where we need to get to as a people, where we begin to value, human life. There's no doubt that even when the US is at this onslaught against Iran, where there is a detonation of the latest state-of-the-art weapons, that the United States values human life, and they will do everything to see that the life of their citizens is protected. So it's not out of place for what we are witnessing, and this is where our government need to learn. They need to learn from actions of governments like this, that the life of your citizens is paramount. And like I did say, for me, I will commend them. Yes, a lot of us may be, disenchanted, angry that our appointments are cancelled. There's need to be patient as the world, navigates this Middle East crisis at this time. We pray that through the establishment of contact at the back channel, there will be meaningful negotiation, bringing the whole crisis to a standstill. So your visa appointment, when things are so settled and the citizens feel safe, the embassy of the United States in Abuja, feels that their staffs are safe, their citizens are safe, they will give you needed appointments, and you'll be able to secure your visa to travel or do whatever business that you have with them. So I would close by saying that our government really needs to take a cue from these actions. Yes, and as we speak about this, we should equally see to it that these protests do not disrupt or impact negatively the life of other citizens who are going about their business. The world is watching. Yes, and we should know that we are dancing at the marketplace. They need to see how we react to this whole scenarios. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Now, we go over to our sports arena where we are having a lot of things coming in the world of sports. And first of all, we're going to look at the details and the headlines from the Punch Sports Extra newspaper as we have it this morning. What is happening in the world of sports, how it is happening. And we have Falcons in limbo as uncertainty clouds 2026 WAFCON. Just beside it, we have Lukman chases Aneke Copa del Rey fifth. Lukman chases Aneke Copa del Rey fifth. Yes, Copa del Rey. I was wondering which other del Rey we have apart from Copa del Rey, so that was why. It will be very talented player. Nuno Espirito says. Nuno Espirito said this yesterday before they played that match against West Ham, which they lost. I mean, this could be more sarcastic now, but let's take it further. Trasbonso coach hails Onuacho's work ethic. And you go down, you see if you need the mixed NPF title claim. Then just by the side, we have Joshua undergoes rib treatment. Then by the side of the left front page, we have Adeyemi eyes EPL switch. Down to it, we have Liverpool loses frustrates slots. Liverpool loses, and that frustrates slots a lot. Frustration of slots is not just that they are losing, but also that the players are injured. I think that's part of what is in the details of the news, because a lot of currently in the world of both English league, Spanish league, and every other league, Bundesliga, there's a lot of injuries happening. But I have one question. Why is Arsenal players, why is Arsenal not having injuries like every other person is having injuries, even while playing all those competitions? Arsenal is not having any injury, or injury scare. They have everybody who can replace the position other people are playing. I think that's what a good team and a great team means. But let's move on. Baka confirms Balde Kaune blows. Like I said, it's injury that they are blowing here, not any other thing. The Balde is injured, Kaune is injured, and they have a Champions League game to play. So we move on to Arsenal. Len Goretzka salary demands. Just by the side, we have